You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 178. Let's Talk Business, a Friendsgiving special. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I am so excited to bring this episode to you because it is a special one. In fact, I have never done anything like this in the previous episodes of Productivity Straight Talk. My team and I had an idea of doing a Friendsgiving special where I invited some of my closest business friends onto a group Zoom chat and just talk business, have some drinks, some laughs, and really pull back the curtains, or rather hit record on the types of conversations that we have all the time. And the reason I wanted to do that is because the conversations I'm having with my friends, I find personally so incredibly valuable. Not just what we talk about, but the different perspectives, the different experiences, the encouragement that I get. And I didn't want to keep it all to myself. So I decided to invite them, hit record, ask some questions, and see where the conversation goes. So that's what you are getting ready to hear today. And I want to welcome you to our Friendsgiving. Now, it was certainly only by chance that all of my friends that I invited that were able to make it have podcasts. So I want to go through the guest list at our Friendsgiving and share with you their podcasts so that you can go check them out. First, we have Amanda Berlin, and she is a podcaster over at Empowered Publicity Podcast. We have Carol Cox, and her podcast is Speaking Your Brand. Then we have Hilary Hendershot, and she is the podcast host of Profit Boss Radio. And Jamie Lieberman is the co-host of Fearless Business Podcast. We have Jaclyn Mellone, and she is a podcast host at Go To Gal Podcast. And Jessica Rodriguez, who is a podcaster or was a podcaster. You can definitely go check out her podcast, but she's currently doubling down on blogging. So you can find her podcast that has great episodes over at Freedom Driven Success Podcast. And she's blogging some amazing content over at freedomdrivensuccess.com. We will be sure to link out to all of these podcasts and Jess's blog in the show notes. Before we dive into this very special Friendsgiving episode, I want to make sure that you know I want you at my happy hour. That's right. I want to personally invite you to join me on December 3rd for my Vision Board Happy Hour. Come join us to create a visual representation of your vision of success. This has been something that I have done for many, many years, and every year I update my vision board. My vision board is actually sitting on my desk. I have it as a 2-foot by 18-inch desk mat that my keyboard and my monitor hover over so that I'm looking at it every day. I also have a vision board that is created purely by words that align me for what my vision of success is, and that hangs right at the left side of my desk every single day. I am a true believer that if we take the time to dream it and we take the time to get clear about what our vision of success is and then create a visual representation that we can keep around us all the time, that we increase our ability to stay focused and achieve those dreams and vision of success. So if you are interested, maybe you've done it in the past and you want to freshen yours up, or you've never done it before, I'm going to walk you through the creation of your very own vision board. So join us by going to amberdelagarza.com/vision. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/vision. Don't miss this happy hour. Join us and other business owners to have a great time and really bring in the new year with clarity and focus around your vision of success. And now, let's get to the straight talk. All right, ladies, I'm so glad you're here. So I had this little idea that turned into a big idea that I wanted to do a Friendsgiving because I wanted to tell each and every one of you that you have absolutely touched my life. And I have enjoyed pouring into you, and each of you have poured into me over the year or years. And wow, 2020 has been crazy. And I just have so much gratitude. And I thought, gosh, we cannot do this in person, which kills me. Hell or high water, I was going to do this virtually. So I wanted to bring you all together. And some of you don't even know each other. We did do a little quick intro before we actually recorded, which we shouldn't have done, but it's all good. We're recording now. And I have a few questions, but here's the deal. Our listeners are going to just hear us throw back some drinks, have some behind the scene conversations, because I've said over and over again, there's so much value in the Voxers and conversations that we have that are just super organic. And I suppose if we hit record with the 8 of us or 9 of us, that something magical will happen. All right, so let's start it off. What are y'all drinking? I got whiskey.
I need to go downstairs and get a drink.
I have mint tea.
Okay, mint tea. Okay. Hilary, you literally have like a wine cellar at your house. What do you call it? You got to go get some wine.
Literally. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Am I drinking alone? Jess, you didn't leave me hanging.
No, I got a drink too.
Margarita, always margarita.
Margarita and tacos.
Oh,
Every Tuesday, I think about Jess because someone's talking about Taco Tuesdays.
I'm okay with that being connected to me. I really approve of that.
That's awesome. All right. What you drinking, Jaclyn?
I am drinking cider. I'm kind of on a cider kick because it's gluten-free and I put it in a wine glass so it looks like wine, but this is rosé hibiscus cider.
Oh my gosh. I literally need to get that. I love cider too because I'm gluten-free. Small fact, cider, done. Whiskey, I won't even have a buzz. So I don't know what's going on with the cider.
I think you need to recheck things.
Maybe it's apple juice in my whiskey bottle. All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start off with how about, and I didn't prep any of y'all for any of these questions. Okay. We got Ruby Wit. Hilary came back.
Grapefruit, White Claw.
Awesome. All right. Cool. All right. We all got our drinks. So do any of you want to share one of your most embarrassing moments on your entrepreneurial journey? Like, have you fallen off a stage talking? I was thinking about some funny stuff that has happened or I've seen happen. You got to think about it.
Yeah, you should have given me a couple days to prep for this one.
I have my worst idea.
Okay, go for it.
That was a definite fail. You know, when you feel super excited about something, you're like, this is it. Nobody's ready for what I'm about to bring. And at the time I had a fitness business and I was like, you know what? I would love to expand locally. I've done this all online. If I could get the local market, this is going to be out of control. But for my schedule, it'd have to be during the day. So to help people during the day, they're going to have to be stay-at-home. They're going to have to be stay-at-home moms. So I'm like, okay, so what do I do to serve a stay-at-home mom? Mind you, I do not have children. So I'm thinking of this and I go, here, I got it. I'm going to save. I won't have any overhead. I'm going to go to a park. I'm going to invite a bunch of moms. They can bring all of their children and then tell the children to go play in the corner and they will work out. And then they're going to love it so much. They're going to buy more things from me. And I was saying this on a Zoom call with other people and they were like, anyone want to guess the non-mom in the room? And I was like, what? I think this is the best idea. How do you think they're just going to go play? I'm like, well, it's a park. There's, slides and all that kind of stuff. Or Rugrats back in the day, don't you just put that pen up and all the kids play inside and everything? And I was dead serious. And everyone was just looking. I was like, oh, so that idea is a fail? I see. And I always remember that because it was just a lesson on not speaking to your ideal people, not speaking to the needs or even understanding who you're trying to serve. And I was like, oh, I have a lot to learn. Okay, I see.
At least you had someone to run it by first before you did like your full on marketing and like stood in the park by yourself.
Why aren't they just behaving in the corner? Don't they all just get along?
Yes, for sure. All right. Do you have one, Hilary? All right. You unmuted, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
I was just going to laugh with her. I'm like, I tell my kid to go play in the park all the time. She never does it.
Yeah.
I got interviewed by a New York Times bestselling author, and she's a media person. And I mentioned during the show that one of the things that happened when I was starting my business is my husband was sort of funding me. So we said we had a deal that I wouldn't pay myself in my business, and we had separate accounts at that time. And so I told this interviewer that I started using his credit cards. Like he gave me the credit card, but I just started using it for my daily expenses. And after a year, I realized that we were not even in communication about this, right? And so I said to him, I've been using your credit cards. And he's like, I know. First of all, like, I know. And she published the interview with the headline, my name. And then it was something like basically steals credit cards from her husband. Now, mind you,
gosh.
Yeah, I'm a financial advisor, right? For a living. I manage like hundreds of millions of other people's dollars. I have a relationship with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Like, that's not cool, right? So it was the only time I've ever like had a super bad experience with how the interview was published. And I just was like super direct with her. I'm like, you have to take it down. Like, absolutely unacceptable. So
oh my goodness. I'm thinking of, I used to host like local events, speaking events. And, anytime you go to a speaking event or you host a speaking event, it takes you back to like junior high or high school when you throw your own birthday party and you're like, no one's going to show up. Yeah, nobody showed up. Like nobody showed up. And I'm like, it was embarrassing for me, myself, and I guess until I'm telling you. But in that moment, it's like, what do? You feel so embarrassed that you like threw this event. You had this whole presentation planned. It was like a boardroom booked and literally nobody shows up. And like, what do you do? Do you say, I practiced, or you're like, no, everyone's just late. Well, you're just going to hold the presentation until everybody gets here. All the conversations in the head. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. So try shaking that every other time you try to host an event, virtual or live or anything. Yeah.
The quintessential rejection.
I know. Well, okay. So I'm going to actually just chalk it up to, I did not know anything about marketing back then. It wasn't that people actually knew what was happening and didn't want to come. It's that nobody knew what was happening.
But there's probably no better way to develop a thick skin than to find yourself in a room by yourself. And like, that is the ultimate. And it's not humiliating on any, like you said, like you're the only one who knew, but what a way to develop a thick skin. I've been there as well. I dabbled for about a year before I figured out what my business was really going to be. This was in like 2012 to 2013. This is Amanda Berlin, by the way. And I taught fitness for a while. And so I had those moments where I was teaching a fitness class to like one person. And there's no escaping the sensation of like, okay, like we're doing it. I'm not going to not do it only because one person came, but you just have to, there's no better way to like, there's no like bigger fear to face than like, am I going to be standing in this room by myself?
100%. I can also say there's been a lot of speaking embarrassing moments, but those I can roll with. Like I can make fun of myself on stage like no other.
That's mine.
Yeah, that was yours. Go, Jamie, what's yours?
So one of the very first times I spoke, I was not used to or ready for, I'm an attorney for anybody who doesn't listen. So I speak about legal topics. And what I didn't realize is when an attorney speaks, everyone wants to ask you 10,000 questions. So they like may show up to hear your topic, but really they want to know about that speeding ticket or their aunt's will. And I don't do either of those things. So I now know how to gracefully answer those questions. in a way that doesn't make the person feel like I'm looking at them like they're crazy. But in the beginning, when I was learning how to speak, I would try to answer the question and I would end up in this endless loop of trying to answer the question. And I just was talking like, I don't really know, but maybe this and this. And I could feel myself not stopping. And so you're just, and the whole audience is quiet and they're just looking at you and they're like, is she going to say anything? And yeah, it was definitely like, I felt like I spoke for 4 straight hours. It may have been like 45 seconds, but it just felt like, and I said nothing. I said no words. I was just like, well, I don't know. And yeah. So I learned very quickly, how to deal with that. So that was mortifying.
I know. Or like to also like cut them off ahead of time. Now, like all that experience, right? Like now, you know, things like, so do you have a quick question I can answer? Or do you have a question pertaining to the topic I actually just spoke about today?
Or do you have a question, or would you like to tell me what the law is? Because that's interesting too.
That's right. That's right.
I have a solution for that. Don't allow questions. There's like other ways to get people to interact that don't involve asking them if they have questions.
I know. I've tried that and people get really mad. But now I know how to like head them off, which is, you know, I'm very clear about what I can and can't answer, and I'm good at giving succinct, but it just takes practice and a very thick skin.
Yeah.
Jamie, you can just send them to me because I like to say that I just play an attorney on, on my podcast and not in real life. So I'm happy to answer any legal questions with no expertise or education whatsoever.
That's awesome. I love that, Carol. Done.
Gotcha. Okay. So I have another question for you that I thought would be interesting to answer. What have you had to let go to grow? So grow either personally or in your business, and what you had to let go could have been anything. Could have been mindset, could have been physical, could have been another business, an idea.
For me, it's money. Sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead,
Okay,
Hilary. Go for it.
Well, like I have $250,000 in payroll costs for the full-time employees. And it's like, that's my money. And every time I go to hire someone new, and especially I'm in Silicon Valley, so if I want anybody local, it's 6 figures minimum, and it's like, that is literally my money. I literally earned that money and I'm going to pay it to you, right? But every time I hire somebody, then my business grows. So it works, but it was gut-wrenching for me in the beginning.
Absolutely. All right, what else?
Yeah, so along the same lines, it's the money for team members, but I'm basically the opposite now. I'm like, take my money, like take this load off of me. I am so glad to pay you. I'm so glad that you're now helping out in whatever area you are. It's almost like I have to be mindful. I'm like, no, I need to keep some of this money, for profits in the business, because I'm almost like, who else wants a job?
That's right. So you're letting it all go. Okay, I have so many other questions, but go ahead. What else have you had to let go to grow?
I think it's that I need to understand or know everything like on expert level.
Oh my God.
So I'm really, really good at delegating, but I also am like, but I need to learn this all. So I know that what's happening and being delegated is correct. And I could, but then I think my kids would starve. So letting go of sometimes just saying, you know what, you are 100% the expert in this. I hired you for a reason, and I just have to trust in the process and know that the results will come and we have everything set in place so that I know enough that if you leave, I'm okay, but I don't need to know every single thing. That was very hard for me in the beginning.
Yes, I feel the same way. And I realize that's like a scarcity thought of you're trying to learn it all, because not when they leave, but not if they leave rather, but when they leave, you don't want to be caught like high and dry, not knowing anything or not being able to fill the role. Totally. Take a deep breath.
I have one to share.
Yes.
So this is interesting. This is Jaclyn, by the way. So when I started my business, what I had to let go of was all of that like prior conditioning of, oh, you know what? I can now start my business like the way that works for me, and I can do things that work for me. And what I've realized now, as I've been growing to that next level this past year, is that what's best for the business is not always what's best for me. So that's been a big shift from building that lifestyle business to growing another business of, okay, what's best for the company and how can I either hire someone or accommodate myself or whatever that next step is. But this isn't just about what Jaclyn feels like doing every day, but how are we actually building a business that also supports me and the lifestyle I want to have, but doesn't just totally revolve around me, but really revolves around the business we want to have.
Love that.
I was going to say, this is Amanda. My immediate reaction to that question was I needed to become a different person. Like I shed my entire, like who I was. And it was because when I started my business, I was a different person, and I went through so many transformational things in like my personal life that, you know, and those things I think created stories that I told myself about what was possible for me. And then really kind of proving those stories wrong and reauthoring those stories really just transformed who I was. Like I was a new mom in a marriage that was crumbling when I started my business. I went through a divorce and I shed that, which I knew instinctively would benefit my business because it was such an emotional drain. And I just am a completely different person. So it's like shedding an entire identity.
Yes, I resonate with that 100%. I mean, the root of who I am is still there, but the best parts are left. I feel like I've stripped, and I don't say that arrogantly. I mean, it's been a hard road to strip out all of the things that either just weren't working or the way that I was raised or the way that I had chosen to think because I didn't know any better. I lost friends along the way, a lot of friends. Friends that didn't understand business or reprioritizing. For those of you that are moms, it's kind of like if you're the first one to have a kid and all your other friends are still clubbing. It was almost like when I started my business, my friends, local friends, a lot of them were on just a different level. And so I felt like I had to not just find myself, but find my people for sure.
Yeah. And I would say for me, it was the attachment that I had to my business. So for me, it was like this self-worth was really dependent on how much my business did, whether it was financial, whether it was this random mark of this is successful or whatever I tried to make it out to be. So really starting to realize that I was even doing it, which meant business is always up and down, right? That's just normal how it goes. But I was taking myself up and down throughout it as well, to the point where I'm not going to be able to run a business if this is how it is. So really starting to do that kind of hard inner work where it's like, oh, strategy, all that is comfortable for me. I'll show up, I'll do the work, I'll do this. But how about the actual hard work of what does allow your business to grow even beyond you and have the kind of impact you make? Well, then now it's all internal. And that scared the hell out of me when I started realizing that. I was like, oh, like these things I can't just control by doing more. I actually have to do less and figure out all the internal. That was huge.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. So Jessica, do you remember, or actually the question is for all of you, is do you remember the moment that you realized that you needed a hell of a lot less strategy and know-how and knowledge, and it was a mindset head game from this point forward in business? That shift of why didn't anybody tell me I need to be working on the internal mindset stuff long before I was so worried about listening to every single podcast? And I say that as I know that my listeners are listening, but you also have to go within and do the internal work.
For me, it was almost right out of the gate. And that's because I started my Instagram account, my idea for a business in the end of June of 2015, but I didn't launch my first paid offering until it was the first week in November. It was the week that I launched my first podcast, my first paid product, and also the week I found out I was, surprise, pregnant with baby number 2. And with that, I don't know if this is scientifically proven, but I have really been blessed by waking up happy for most of my life. And I was very happy about the pregnancy. But I think maybe because he was a boy, there was like this internal hormone thing. I was just miserable. And it was literally, I was starting this podcast and business, and I had hired a coach who did mindset and strategy. And I hired her for strategy. And very soon I realized, like, okay, I'm so glad I did hire her, because I know I wouldn't have invested, especially so early on in my business, in someone to help with the life stuff and with the mindset. But I'm so grateful that I had her, because that was such a hard time for me with so many changes inside and out, and to have that support there. So really right from the get-go, I realized, because I had such a big situation and was going through such a hard time. And yes, and it's been a journey since, but I'm so grateful for that experience early on.
Yeah. Carol, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So I definitely see, looking back. So speaking, your brand started in 2015. So it's about 5 years old now as well, and definitely focused on, strategy, marketing, sales, and things like that. But this is my third business in almost 20 years. So I learned a lot of what not to do from the first two businesses. And so I brought that in with me. And even though this business is very different, because the other two were tech software businesses, but I learned very quickly, like, I can't be the one doing everything. It can't be all me, because that's where I got stuck in the last one. And also like cash flow issues, like things like that. So I had my eyes much more wide open this time around. But I still feel like the mindset stuff didn't really kick in until probably about year 3 of now, year 5, and focusing a lot more on strategy and marketing initially.
Yeah. I feel like the mindset challenges were definitely there. It's almost like I couldn't identify they were mindset challenges. I was like, no, I just need to learn something else. I just need to figure out this strategy. Like, why does it feel difficult? And I also see, obviously, with my clients, is that you can have strategy and energy in front of you, but then if you don't have the mindset to go with it, you can't even execute on the strategy because you haven't figured out the other half of the formula. All right. Anyone else before we jump on to something else?
I was just going to say that there was a moment this is Amanda Berlin again, about a year and a half ago when I was launching my first round of Pitch to Prominence, which has become like a signature program for me. And the thing that confronted me about it was that it was going to be a group program. And I had, again, like with the stories, I had all of these stories that I can't amass the number of people, like all the same people who want to start with me all at the same time. Because leading up to then, I had always worked with people one-on-one. And of course, I had like the lingering mindset issue of like, no one cares what I'm doing. Like no one shows up, like what we were saying before, Amber. So it was entirely mindset, because I was positioned to do this. Like I had done a ton of visibility work. I'd done some really powerful speaking gigs. I had the podcast. It was time. And it was literally my mindset that was holding me back. And so I wrote mantras down, which is like cliche, but I would write them and like put them on a Post-it, and then I just become blind to them. These I wrote down and I taped them to my desk, like right next to my computer. And I describe it like I strong-armed myself into adopting those mindsets. It was like every time I went to that old story, I was like, no, we're not thinking that way anymore. These are the new thoughts. Get them in your head.
That's awesome. I think that is actually sometimes what it does take to rewire some of those really stubborn mindset beliefs that we've either just kind of had forever or we've inherited along the way. It does take a lot of work to keep choosing. It was Jessica, you said that, the second thought, right? You just told me that like last week, and I'm like, that was the best. Go ahead, say what you told me.
Yep. So when I first started getting into mindset work, it was this huge, like every time I think something bad, I was like, oh no, I messed it up. Like now my business is going to crumble. Everything's wrong because I thought the thought, now I'm going to manifest it. Like I would make it this whole production about myself. Guys, I had a lot of work to do. I still have a lot of work to do. So what I started doing was going, wait a minute, hold on. What if it's not the first thought that counts, but the second thought? Like I can control the second thought. I can't control what randomly pops in from like something that happened when I was a kid, or who knows where things are coming from. I can't control that. So instead, let it come in, see it for what it is, which is just data. And then I have the option to say, okay, so what new story do I want to create? And just like Amanda said, whether that is writing certain things down and getting it up front or whatever you need to do to start to instill that new story, then eventually you don't start having that first thought anymore. Maybe it's a different one, right? That comes in and you work through that, but it's that continuous progression of yourself as you go.
Yes. So good. All right. What do you do in your business or your business day to keep things fun? This question is from Jessica. It was not from Jessica. I would say inspired by Jessica being in my life.
I think that you are integral to my answer to that question. This is Amanda. I mean, having Voxer conversations with you and Jess and Jamie and, just like the people who would be like in the next cubicle if we all actually work together in person, having that community, that is a huge relief for me to have like actual conversations outside of my own brain.
That's right.
Slack, gifts and Slack. My team and I have so much fun just sending each other dumb stuff. And even with clients, like I just love that I have this like very different experience in like the lawyer-client relationship because of the really fun clients that I have, that they will send me some of the craziest things. And it just makes me laugh really hard because they're funny and we're not taking ourselves too seriously. And it is such a, I come from pre-entrepreneur life, such a formal lawyer background. Like it was black suits every single day. We were not permitted to smile. We were like sleeping in our offices. It was the most unfun environment ever. So like I made my office really fun. I have stuffed animals and I have we were talking about it before we got on, the Pop Funko. I have all the Golden Girls, like silly posters that like laugh about, lawyer stuff or whatever the case may be. That kind of levity and just like never taking ourselves too seriously is, I think, the most fun part. And being able to set that tone, not only for my staff, but just generally speaking, like that my clients can feel comfortable enough to send me like a very hilarious GIF in response to an email that I send, or that they'll invite me into their Slack channels and, even the funny ones, things like that.
And do you have different Slack channels or it's like a group Slack channel?
Or the
fun one?
So we have a fun Slack channel that we call Gold Stars Mush. So we all just like talk about, it's like the water cooler essentially. But if somebody does something awesome, we'll always be like sending stuff around. If it's somebody's birthday, we do monthly team Zooms, and pre-COVID, we used to do a yearly retreat, which was really beneficial because my team is virtual. So getting everybody together is important. So keeping those channels, and then, that's just the one for the fun. And then we have other channels for actual work.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll go. This is something I'm actively trying to infuse more of. I am an Enneagram 7 and so is Jessica. and fun actually motivates me. And that is something I have denied myself of for a very long time. So the one thing I'm going to say might sound a little bit conceited, but it's true. And that's, I really just show up as me. And that sounds so silly to say, but if I allow myself to actually be myself and I am silly and I, make light of things or share funny gifts or say things in a funny way, then my client calls are fun. My group coaching calls are fun. My trainings are fun. My commenting, my Voxering, whatever that is, all feels fun if I don't feel like I need to be putting on a front. And so I think that's a really big part of it, just by design, where just literally what I need to do. And most recently, I really struggle with things that are just where I'm alone. That's where it doesn't always feel fun, being such an extrovert and being an Enneagram 7. And so finding more opportunities to be working with team members on Zoom, or my new favorite thing ever, Focus Mate. And that just immediately makes whatever I need to be doing more fun because I feel more in community.
My fun is definitely Voxer. conferences, as before we were recording, we realized I picked y'all up at conferences. That's how I have every single one of your relationships. I'm dying here in 2020 with no conferences. And I guess my fun does come from the deeper connections, the friendships, joking with my clients on a coaching call, or starting a team meeting, or with someone on my team, just kind of recapping what happened this week, what's going on with you. Even though it's virtual, is having some sort of normalcy, because we can get into work mode because we all are virtual. Most of our team members are virtual. And I say this question was inspired by Jessica, because Jessica has coached me over the last year on sales funnels and things like that in my business. But there's so many other things that she's shown me is you can be incredibly focused and driven and also have a lot of fun. And I'm actually having fun with her. So I'm okay, there's more room for more fun. So she's my Enneagram 7 friend, along with Jaclyn, that balances me out. All right. What is the greatest asset or character trait you bring to your business? This is the time to get cocky or arrogant or whatever. No apologies. I just want to hear, what is the trait or characteristic? And I say no apologies because we have a tendency to say, well, we make excuses for the things that we're proud of. And I just want us to show up and say, this is me. This is the best parts of what I bring to my business.
Do we have to pick just one?
No. Pick them all, Carol.
I love that. I was when am I apologizing for my awesome? I don't remember.
I know. I'm I don't know. There's so many things.
Yeah,
I would say, I'm a big picture thinker, but I'm also extremely detail oriented. And so I can hold both of those things at the same time, whether it's working on my business or helping clients with their signature talks or thought leadership. So, and I also like to say that I read very widely and listen to podcasts on a lot of different topics. And I always have. So I know pretty much a little bit about almost every topic. So I know enough to ask you the right questions to pull out that information from you, but I don't know so much that I'm too close to it that I don't know what to ask that your audience would want to know.
That's great. Have you always had that balance of big vision and detailed, or was it a skill that you refined? Okay.
Yeah, I think I've always had that.
Next up, look, I told y'all, I was so afraid you guys are going to talk over each other. And every time I throw out a question, y'all just look at me. So go for it.
I'll go.
Go.
Carol inspired me with her awesome. My communication skills and my ability to connect with people and make them feel not afraid of a topic that frankly bores or terrifies most people is what I think I am absolutely best at. And relationship building is something that I just love doing. So it's very natural. I'm a very big picture thinker. I have zero attention to detail that's outside of my legal work. So I feel like I take every ounce and ability of having an attention to detail. I hone it into my legal work and I am lost everywhere else. And that's okay. So I'm very good at delegating. I do not have a problem delegating. I adore giving tasks away. And I don't micromanage. So I think that I give my staff really wide leeway, and I'm a strong believer in trust and in hiring the people that I know that I can trust and empowering them to be the best part of what they are. And if we give them, because sometimes I over give, and I had an example of that with my staff and being able to sort of step back and be okay, let's fix this. Let's figure out who needs to go where, I think is also one of my superpowers.
Awesome. I really resonate with what Carol said, especially coming from, this is Amanda again, coming from the PR agency world, where I learned, I worked on so many different accounts, from pharmaceutical to consumer products to financial firms, everything. And I used to say, I know enough about everything to be dangerous, but not to do any kind of good. I also was maybe I could get some stock tips by looking at this FDA approval or something. But yeah, I do feel I know a lot about a lot of different things, and I can always kind of tune into what's going to be important to an audience. That's my genius. That's what I do for clients. And I think on a personal level, about me like serves me in my business is, the word that came to mind was integrity, but it's almost this like, I dare you kind of integrity. Like whenever I see or presented with an opportunity or an idea or a tactic to employ, I may be like, oh my God, I don't know. Like it may be scary to me, but once it's like clicked into my brain, or once I'm aware of it, it's something I can't turn away from. I have to do it. So if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I show up on time. I will take something on, even if I don't want to, though I also am really good at energy testing within myself, like whether it's a don't want to because it's wrong or a don't want to because I'm afraid. And I will always face that fear.
I literally want to know more about your energy testing. I haven't ever heard you say that. Is that new for all of you?
No,
Tell us more.
No, I know exactly what she's talking about. I've never called it energy testing before, but I know exactly what she's talking about.
I love when Amanda talks like this.
Okay, but I feel
That's so funny, Jamie.
so Hilary
So
and
fun
Amanda,
to me.
I feel like this could be helpful in my life. So I'm just gonna I want to know more. Because it's that moment where you feel a feeling in your body, but you have to really identify what the source is. Is it coming from the BS in your head, or is it like a real warning sign? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I try to figure out, like, can I muster genuine enthusiasm for this task? Or is this going to be something I'm forcing myself to do? And therefore the output becomes tainted with that like should energy. And so I just try to like key into like, can I find a way to do? So I guess it's a baseline question to begin with. Like, is this something that I want to do? And then, or is it the fear that's keeping me from wanting to do it? Or is it that it's not aligned for me? And then once I make that determination, it's like, okay, is there something to tweak about this that makes it like exciting for me to do it? Because I also know, and I work with my clients on this too, is like anything you put out there into the world needs to have your enthusiasm backing it. Otherwise it's just going to fall flat. And it's going to, like I said, be tainted almost with that kind of, like wonky energy. So that's sort of what, I don't know, that's what comes to mind right now as the explanation. I'm sure I'd explain it differently tomorrow.
All good. Jess, Hilary, what do you bring to the table?
So, and I'll start by telling you how I learned that this is a thing about myself, is that I took the GMAT exam to start my MBA program, and I scored like off the charts. And it was like, wasn't expecting to score that well. And when I dug into the score, I'm like, the structure of the GMAT is half of it's verbal and half of it's analytical. And I'm like good analytically, but I'm not off the charts at all. But I'm very strong verbally and I'm pretty strong analytically. And apparently the combination of the two is pretty rare. So what that means in my business is that, I'll give you an example. We have lots of high earners who hire us, and in their minds, they're like ballers. Like they think they have more money than Midas, and they hire me to make sure that they can achieve their financial goals. And they think they're well on their way. And in reality, they're not. Like not at all. And they're at risk of like getting past a point of no return where they don't have the years left in their desired timeline to make up the difference, right? And so we can see that as a team. And, I have a staff financial advisors. And so my team will call me and they're like, what are we going to say to this person? She's just gone off half cocked. But it's super clear to me exactly how to be and exactly what to say in a conversation, given what I know about that person. So of course you have to be in a dance with who the human being actually is, right? To invite her in the most powerful way I can to alter her behavior, just exactly the words that need to be said. And we're like 99%. I mean, I won't say I've never failed to sort of rein someone in. And that's just an example of kind of some of the behavioral stuff that we deal with in the practice. But, it's a skill set that while
I'm the only one on the team who can do it right now. I really wish I could replicate myself because I don't really want there to be anything that only I can do. But my team is kind of like sometimes in awe of it. You know, how do you know? Like they can't really get past the sort of being critical of her behavior. Like it's obvious to them, right? The numbers don't match the behavior, right? But I'm like, you can't live there. That's not how you produce changes in behavior, right? And so then the other really, I think, strong suit of mine is that I'm super transparent. People always say to me, wow, Hilary, with you, what you see is what you get, right? There's no ulterior me. I really don't like gossip about people. I don't have a life that I would be embarrassed that you knew about. I'm an open book, and it really leads to trust. So people, I think, are inclined to trust me. There you go.
I love that I asked that question because I haven't ever asked that question. I didn't know those things about you, Hilary. So that's great that I asked. Jess.
Yes. What's the question again? Let's repeat it. No.
What are the best parts of Jessica Rodriguez that you bring to the table?
I love you, Jess. I just have to say it. I do.
Love you. So here's the thing. Like, I was really thinking, I'm so glad you asked this question because it made me like, I'm someone who struggles to own like my own things. So even sitting here, I'm like, no, like, this is real, right? And everybody needs to keep doing this. And this is that growing practice of it. I would say one thing is definitely, and Hilary kind of pulled this out for me as far as the two sides that people don't think like you have to be one way or the other way. Like for me, I'm a left and right brain thinker. So I could be pulling ideas out of any creative is one of my top fit. Like I have to be creative or else I'm completely disconnected to my business. Where that could have me, whether it's creating content, videos, reels, like just graphics, all of that. I love doing it. And then all of a sudden it could be 10 minutes later, I'll switch over to reading all the data in your business and what these numbers mean and strategizing in this. So I can bounce back and forth very well. And along with that, I think every time I think back of the people that I work with, it's the fact that I want people to outgrow me. Like I want to empower people in a way where it's not just like, oh, here's the thing, take it, apply it, keep coming back to me. It's no, like you're really overwhelmed by this huge big picture. Let's break it down. And I'm going to explain why we're doing it this way, why it fits in your business, some things that, you know, you may see along the way, as well as if somebody else's business is doing this, it's because of this reason. So like, don't yourself caught in that trap because I really want to educate people. So when they're done working with me, whether they're outsourcing or doing it themselves or whatever, they at least have that knowledge. And I never realized that other people didn't work that way until I was hearing that kind of feedback. And I really think it also goes with the fact that I just genuinely care about everyone that I work with. And I want them to succeed beyond me. I want them to be a peer. I want like us to continue going through this journey. So in order to do that, I have to be willing to have that deeper level of connection and those honest and sometimes hard conversations that allow them to really understand what is happening in their business so they can continue to grow beyond our time together.
Yeah. I didn't even think about an answer for myself when I prepped that question, interestingly enough. But the thing that comes up for me is that I literally see the best in people. So when I have a coaching client that comes to me and is like incredibly vulnerable, they're working on like the most parts of themselves and their business. It's like I can literally hold space for what their big goals are and see it for them, even when they don't see it for themselves on hard days or difficult days. And I have someone described me this way about 4 years ago, and I would have never described myself that way, but I feel like there's a lot of truth to it. She said, you're like a pit bull dressed up in a dress. So meaning I am so direct and straight, and I can be hard when you like, I'm sorry, do you want me to listen to your bullshit or do we want to get results here? Or I can come to the table and have incredible amount of grace and like hold space and love. And I can go back and forth and I can be incredibly present with my client and just go with my gut on what I feel like my client needs. And that had just shown up when I became a coach, like parts of that, and I developed it without even knowing what I was doing. Like, I just thought everybody did that. Isn't everybody like hold the line of standards, but also show grace and love? And I realized that wasn't how people usually are. They're one way or the other. So I would say that I hold people to high standards because I believe wholeheartedly those standards are who they are. And then I want to help them get there. All right.
I gotta go too, Amber. Amber, I gotta go.
You gotta go?
No, like I didn't go.
Oh,
like
Jaclyn, I was literally getting ready to say.
I have strengths too, Amber.
She's like, I gotta go potty.
Oh no.
So Hilary heard potty, and I was getting ready to say, Jaclyn, the invite was for 90 minutes.
No, I'm here to stay. I just want to answer the question, guys.
I want you to answer the question.
So
I got myself I'm sweating here. I'm sorry, Jaclyn. Go ahead.
I didn't realize how that was going to sound when it came out. Well, I'm like sitting here like, what am I going to say? I'm like, oh, wait, now I know what I'm going to say and I'm not going to get to say it. Oh, so I'm cheating a little bit, but I am finding my inspiration from Gallup Strength Finder, actually. I found that I'm really not at all self-aware naturally. And so I love taking these type of assessments because it reflects things back to you. And then I can build that self-awareness, but I'm really not at all self-aware on my own. This has been quite a journey. So with Gallup Strength Finder, my number one strength came back as positivity. And when I first saw that, I actually was really embarrassed by it. And I was like, this is not a strength. Like, this isn't like a real strength. And I had to like show people the results, and I was really embarrassed that they were going to judge me that I didn't have like a really solid number one strength. And it's funny because over the years now I always have my clients and team members take it, and I realize how many people are embarrassed by their number one strength. And I think it's because it's something that's so close to us. We take it for granted, right? And so now I fully embrace my positivity and natural enthusiasm that I bring to things. I saw this quote somewhere that was like, there's two ways to bring light into this world, and you can either be a candle or a mirror. And I really aspire to be that mirror for the people in my life, my clients, my community, and really just spread the light that everyone has. And I see, I guess, going to my other strengths, one of them is futuristic and strategic ideation, but I see things that people don't see in themselves. I think a lot of us have that, and being visionaries and really being able to just have this like endless, I don't even know, flow of creativity and ideas, and seeing how things can fit together and connecting dots and things that other people can't see for themselves or their businesses. And I love being able to use that on other people and not just myself, because I can't do all of these ideas. So I really try to put myself in situations where I can use that skill for my clients and my team. And my last of the 5th for Strength Finders is woo, which is winning others over. And relationship building has definitely been a key part in my business, both within our team and clients. And it's something that I thought was going to be limiting to me. Like, okay, well, if I can't outgrow my ability to like, if everything's going to rely on me to be the key catalyst, but now I'm really thinking outside of that. And it's like an integral part of our company, and something that, yes, other team members can take this on. It doesn't always have to come from me. And so I'm really trying to infuse some of the things that have been our key because they're natural strengths of mine, right? That I'm not the only one with those strengths. So as we grow, surrounding myself with other people that have different strengths, but also some of those key core ones that they can bring to the business too.
Yeah, I wonder if any of you started your business so that you could show up in your strengths or your key characteristics, whereas a traditional job okay, you're all shaking your heads. I want to hear, because as each of you were speaking, and I was thinking of my own, the reason I'm asking that question is because I remember actually being told to go back to my office. Like when I was in corporate, I wanted to help everybody fix everything, ask questions. I wanted to make everything better. I always saw how things could get better. I would do my regular work as fast as I could so I could help work on projects. And it was not welcomed in corporate. So now I have a business where I literally sit here and go from business to business and ask all the questions I want and help all I want. And I created a business from a pain point, like literally frustration of people telling me, like tired of it turned into politics in corporate, right? Like, go back to your department. Why are you looking over here? And I'm like, I just want to help. And I was so naive that obviously not everyone wants help. So share a little bit about how you started your business so that you could show up in your greatest strengths. Carol?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, so my prior two businesses were software. And so I had taught myself how to code because my husband was doing it. And so it was, seemed like a good idea at the time. 10 years later, I was like, no, I was a history PhD. Why am I coding? Why am I building software? I mean, it was good. And then until it wasn't. And so then I took a couple years off. I mean, I was teaching at a university, but I took a couple of years off, kind of winding down the technology business and then knowing that I wanted to start another business. And I had always done speaking engagements, high school, college, in the tech career. And so people always told me how, my presentations were great. So I was like, okay, like I'll help other people create their presentations. That's basically where it started. And what it has become, obviously that's the kernel, but it has become so much even bigger than that, but definitely use it to leverage my like innate strengths versus learned strengths. So I was good at programming, but it wasn't innate.
I bet it feels a lot easier to go with your innate strengths.
Yes, it does. I don't bang my head against the computer anymore.
Right. Amanda, was that you that was?
Yeah. Well, if I'm going along like in line with the answer I gave before, the corporate world just did not agree with me for the reasons that I stated before, the integrity and values and just like moral compass. And so I think it was never easy for me to be an employee. I had contentious relationships, not outwardly, but in my own head with all of my authority figures, who also all happened to be women. All my bosses, I would say that I had a succession of like a replica of the same female boss over and over and over again. And it was interesting looking back on it, but it just, I definitely wanted to kind of like evacuate. The word that's coming to mind is like eject, like that ejector chair, like get me out of here and do my own thing because I just didn't, my it's not fair button was pushed so many times in the corporate world. And I just have this huge sense of like justice and fairness, I guess, as well, that it did not align for me. And, people, just the way they treated each other and the, not showing up and doing what they said they were going to do and whatever, all the things. So for sure, it was the values that I hold to be important were not reflected in the world that I was in. And I'm thankful now because every so often I'm actually in a situation now in like our, school scenario where I have to interact with people that I didn't choose to interact with. And I'm like, I've gotten to choose every person who is in my life right now. And this is what it's like when I don't get to choose.
Jamie, I know you came from a very drastic change.
Yes. I was tired of people telling me I couldn't do what I knew I could do. And it wasn't so much that they were saying, you can't be a good lawyer or you're, but they were saying like, you can't have a flexible workforce with attorneys. They were like, you can't allow your staff to work at home. You have to be here, like sitting here, even if you have nothing to do and give me FaceTime. And I was told that you couldn't be female and you couldn't have and when I mean female, I mean like feminine in any way, shape, or form. I was told that you had to communicate like a man does. And all of those things just felt untrue to me. And I thought there was so much broken, and still is, in the legal profession. I was like, no, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to do this in a way like Amanda's talking about that feels good to me, because I had lost so much of my joy. I loved law school. Like, I may be one of like 5 people on the planet that can say those words, but I thrived and loved law school. All I wanted to do was learn and create. And I had suddenly found myself, I was 5 years out of college when I went to law school. And I found myself in a space where I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And when you know that, it's not work, right? Like, I was cool to study all the time. I didn't mind. And so then when I left law school and I went into this interesting work environment, I was so disillusioned. I almost left it because I was like, this, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I saw this all wrong. And then I was like, no, I can make this mine, and what I do well and what I think is right and serves clients better. And that was my big driver, was just all the broken things I saw, from, the overbilling of clients to, I was told multiple times as a practicing attorney, I worked too quickly. I was like,
what?
but it's right. Oh yeah. They're like, you did that too fast. I'm like, but I was done and you didn't change anything. And they're like, yeah, it wasn't enough hours. I'm like, it shouldn't work that way. I mean, there's a reason why there's so much distrust in the legal field with lawyers. And that just felt so bad to me and wrong. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie about how much I'm working and billing and how quickly I can do that work. So I was like, there's got to be a way that you can be successful, you can make money and still serve clients in a way that is not the traditional, like, white, marble pillars and just stuffiness. Like, we can be real and we can feel real. So that was a huge driver. But I will say this, and then I will stop talking. I think there is so much value to those experiences. I would not trade a minute of those 7 years I spent miserable as a practicing lawyer. Because if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be the lawyer that I am, but I also wouldn't know what I didn't like and what didn't feel right to me. And I never could have created what I did. So there is value if you're sitting and listening to this in an experience that just feels miserable or negative or upset, or you want to make a change. Like, there is something to take from that. And so that experience will help you, I think, later. And so it helped me have the confidence to be able to be like, no, I know I can do this better. But it also gave me those fundamental skills that I needed in order to be able to hold myself out as a lawyer for somebody.
Yeah. I feel like being a business owner empowers us to literally make every decision, right? As soon as we find out there's something we don't like, or something that's stressing us, or the way our business model is, or what we're being told, we actually have all the decision power to change that. Where when we were in corporate, my belief at that time was like, it just felt stuck. It felt like it felt like this is the way it is. Like, I was just plugged into a system that many of you are saying like you didn't agree with or didn't feel right. And yet now we're like in the driver's seat every day. And we may not want to be in the driver's seat every day. And it may come with a lot of responsibility, but how amazing is that any day we get to change whatever experience we're having. All right, I'm going to put myself in the hot seat here. Do you have a funny story about me or about the way we became friends, or anything that you want to share? Okay, Jess is like literally laughing hard. That you want to share with me and with our listeners?
Okay. So when I first found you was through your podcast. So I was looking like business owners that are pitching podcasts. I'm like, oh, what are, different podcasts that I'd be a good fit for? And I started listening. I was like, oh, this girl knows her stuff. Like, she's, she's legit. So I was listening. And then I went to Podcast Movement. Was it 2 years ago, I think? And here's the thing. Let me tell you guys a secret. If you are an introvert, or you're not that person that's just going to run up to people, connect yourself to Jaclyn, because she is an extrovert and she will introduce you to everyone and you will make so many friends. So
I didn't see that coming, by the way. But very true. Very true.
I went to Podcast Movement. It was me, Jaclyn, another girl, Kate, and we shared a room together. It was just one of those, hey, you're going too, let's go ahead. And we get into the conference area and all of that. And Jaclyn's being Jaclyn. She's like, hey, I either know somebody or I'm going to know somebody. And I'm there next to her like, I'm here for this ride. I'm all about this. And then she goes to Amber and I'm like, oh, that's the girl. And I go, oh, like if she starts talking to me, she's gonna be like, you are just not professional enough for me. Like this girl needs to just get out of here. Like, and I was like, it's okay. Like, be cool. Like maybe one day we'll be on our podcast. Right? And then I forget what happened. It was like, oh, let's all go to dinner together. So we all have fun. We're all like connecting at dinner and everything like that. And then it's like, oh, look at that. She's just like human like me. It's cool. Like, apparently I needed a lesson to like stop putting people at like different levels. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like really?
Okay. And it's full circle because we became friends. And then I found out what your expertise was. And I'm like, I need so much help in that area. Like, and now I hired you, not just as my friend, like I hired you as my coach in an area that I am completely not, there was a gap in my business that I wanted filled, and I saw that in you. So full circle, don't listen to those freaking stories. It's right? Hilarious. And Jaclyn, I met her because someone said, go find Jaclyn, like a mutual friend, Angie. I think it was, Angie. And she's like, oh, I know this other person that's going to be there. Like, look for Jaclyn. And so I just looked for Jaclyn.
So it's not like Amber and I were like besties at this point. It was like
I had met her at the same time.
Important context to but yes, I miss conferences. Just talking about this, I don't. When I go to conferences, I don't really ever go in to watch any other presentations. If a friend is talking, or if I feel really like exceptionally peer pressured, but usually not. And I just sit in the hallway and talk to people. And so there's other people like me. I feel like if there's conferences that ever happen again, that yes, find people like me and you will never be lonely at a conference.
So I was, by personality trait, the person that found the agenda, highlighted it, had it put on my calendar. I would show up to every breakout session, right? This was like early on. And then I'm like, oh, like I want to ditch, but I never ditched in high school. I ditched once and I was sick on my friend's couch and I was like, this is karma. So I never ditched again. So then I found myself wanting to like ditch in the hallways with like people that I was meeting. And then somewhere along the line, I totally aborted mission. And now I don't go to any breakout sessions, or very few. And the conference that I met you two at, I went to a conference begrudgingly on the last day at like around 11 because all my friends were already leaving and I was flying back to the West Coast. So my flight was a lot later. I'm like, fine, I'll go to a breakout event. My friends left me.
Oh, I will say, Amber, though, I think we had a coffee chat before that event. Actually, it's all coming back to me, the timeline. We did. And I want to bring this up because, so we were introduced through this mutual friend connection of ours. And when we got on the call, so it was just a chat. And when we got on the call, I don't want to give too much detail away, but let's just say we were both doing a promotion as an affiliate. And it's one of those things around coffee chats. You're normally like, you know, like trying to like show how like good you are at like life or whatever. And what I found is on coffee chats, like this is important, like life lesson here, skill, is when you let your guard down and you're actually like, yeah, like that's like actually not going very well. That is when true connection is made, when you're vulnerable. And we were both doing this and it could have been one of those things like, oh yeah, like it's totally going great, but it really wasn't. And so both of us were like, yeah, it's like kind of not going well. And that just, I think, created instant connection and trust between us, be like, wait, it's not going well for you either. And us like realizing all of these other things. So I think because we just started off like that, we became such fast friends and that was there. And yes, I was very excited to see you in person at the conference too. But connection can be made on those Zoom calls.
They can. And I completely forgot that happened. So, I mean, I can remember now that you're saying that, but I completely forgot. Like I thought it was, but it was when I got to see you in person. And then of course I remembered all the details. All right. Any other funny
And it was not our
stories?
fault, by the way, either.
So Amber, I think we've seen each other at 4 conferences. I'm trying, and my biggest memories of you is just we are waiting in line for food and drinks or we're eating. That's weird. I think the last one we went to, Podcast Movement, Jamie, you were speaking. So we went to your session and then we went, and I was doing a lunch meetup for Speaking Your Brand, people. And that's the only thing I did for the entire conference was your session and the lunch meetup.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Amber with eating and drinking too.
Oh my gosh.
Me too.
That was when you said that, I just started laughing. It's so perfect, eating and drinking, always.
I do remember she ordered cheeseburger and French fries. And I was like, how do you stay so thin eating like that? She goes, oh, it's only while I travel.
That was probably a lie. Or maybe this is what I'll say.
It's a good one.
That was the truth pre-pandemic. I make the best burgers on the grill now. I would have never known that you guys would have associated food and drinks. At least it's not drinking, food and drinking. Like, I don't think that.
Oh, no, it's
Maybe
that
some
too.
drinks.
Yeah, I was like,
it's
yes, it
definitely
is.
drinking too. Yes.
So,
Who
all
else
right.
is going to drink margaritas with me?
Right, exactly. And here's the deal is like, it does sound like I don't know, go and find all these friends, but I don't. Like, if you hear the thread here, some of you I've known for 4, 3, like, I think the least is 2, maybe. But then I might meet a lot of people at a conference. Actually, I think of it as like speed dating. So I'll speed date and boy, do I know the no's fast. And as soon as I find a yes, and I like really feel like I connect with you, I'm like, and now it matters if I go deep. And now it matters if I stay connected and like I invest. And I've gone to conferences. We're not talking about those conferences because there's nobody here from them. Like, this isn't the like every conference this happens. It just, for me, when I started studying an intention to build relationships, when I threw the agenda out and decided not to color code what like events I went to and stuff. And I was like, no, like I'm to a point where like I've kind of heard these topics. I might hear something, it's okay. But like where I'm really going to get breakthroughs is some really great relationships. That's when the magic happened, for sure.
I've never color coded anything in my life.
Okay, but look, we've talked about characteristic traits, and there's many different personalities here. For me, when I talked about shedding myself and like feeling like I became a new person, part of that was purposely choosing who I surround myself with. And there are parts of each of you. While I love that you shared your parts for each of you to hear, I think of each of you in different ways, in different parts, and each of you pull out a different part of me. That's all I can say, right? Like, I know this is getting all mushy, but like literally each of you, I will talk about different things with, or we have different inside jokes, or we like whatever that is. And for me, I feel like that makes me the best person I can be. So
yeah, that's what I mean by that. Like, I love the fact that we have somehow managed to connect across coasts,
right.
You know, with you, like, and stayed like the minute we met. On paper, we would seem like we would have nothing in common, but we connected immediately. I knew you were my people instantly. And just spending that time and just knowing from that, like those meals, which are the best things ever, that I knew you were going to be in my life for a very long time was awesome. And I love the differences, the similarities. But I think at the end, no matter how it comes out, with everybody here, it's just the values are all the same. Like you hear all about honesty and trust and integrity, and each person has a different type of business and everybody here, but I feel like we all created our businesses similarly and we have the same foundations. And I think that is that common thread. And when you see that in somebody else, you just like, you got to hold tight.
Yes. All right, before we close out, I want you to share, what are you most grateful for closing out 2020?
The election results.
Oh, this is amazing.
Yes.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh my God.
Yes.
All right.
So, I sleep with a Fitbit and it, does my sleep score. And I had a 90 sleep score last night. The last one before that was October 21st. So I had like almost a month of really, really crappy sleep. So.
All right. Any other gratefulness?
Relationships. I mean, it has been such an isolating year and terrifying year and uncertain year and all the things words you don't want to hear as an entrepreneur or as a human, honestly. Like it's just, and relationships are the thing. The election results too, Carol. But relationships for sure have kept me, it is the thing I am most grateful for. All the people that have just either become closer or we've sort of come together. It has made my year as good as 2020 could be, but it really has. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
I would say the same. I feel like in so many ways on a professional level and on a personal level, my people really saved me this year. And from, like a massive reorientation of my entire marketing plan for this year when I had to cancel an event to just like scooping me up and being like, you're part of our crew now. And that's, it's been like, it's almost like I couldn't have imagined all of that happening had it not been for this like horrible circumstance that we're in. So I really do believe that there's always opportunity and light in these like really dire circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this was a weird year in the fact that I know it was hard for a lot of people, but I was fortunate to be in a situation where it's like, no, we're still good. Like, if anything, we're growing, like, really coming to grips. Like, that's okay. It's okay that that's happening for you. But to be able to see just, like, I'm grateful my business was in a place where I could go help other people, where like it was okay to take that time to be that space for somebody, to see how many business owners like took this as a challenge of, okay, let me change something. Let me, do something a different way. Let me do this. Just like, it just showed like the resilience of human spirit and just like how capable we are of really navigating anything that happens to us. And that just brought like a whole new breath of life of like, wow, we are an amazing group of humans. Like just watching what everybody was able to do this year, myself included, it's just like, that in itself is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Jaclyn?
I want to say like all of the above, but what I'll say is, so yes, the relationships. And yes, I've come back to just being so grateful for my business so many times throughout this year of if I was in a different situation and just like being like, okay, I'm so grateful for all of those decisions I made up until that point to be in a situation where I do have the flexibility where I can still grow in this type of economy and all of that. But even more so, I want to just like, I'm just so grateful for my health and my mental health. This has definitely been, I'm going to get a little emotional. Somebody had to cry, right? It's been a hard year for me emotionally, where even if things on paper look as good as they can look in the middle of a global pandemic, and I could have my best month ever, I could have amazing features in the media and things just, seem to be going really well. There's been times this year where my head just isn't
yes,
like it's been. And I think a lot of it's been the anxiety and what's going on in the world. And I've really taken the last couple months to pour into myself and get help and prioritize myself and go away with my husband for a weekend. That was just like, I came back from that, like we had like 27 hours together, and I woke up the next morning with just
a level of energy and happiness that I hadn't had in months. And that was really just, and it's just like, and since that things have felt so much easier. And so now I'm like, okay, where I may have taken it for granted that I woke up happy all those times for most of my life, this year with everything going on, I struggled a lot. And when I feel my best, I can do my best. And that just allows everything else to go. So now that I've gotten through that, I'm like, I'm just extra grateful to wake up happy, and gonna keep really trying to take care of myself to keep that going.
Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I know that everyone has their mics muted. You can see us all nodding our heads. Like we are, I'm going to speak for most of us, but I'll speak for myself, is that I think we've all felt that this last year. And you're right. Like the podcast still goes on, the content still goes out, the employees keep working. It all keeps moving, but we feel like we're breaking behind the scenes, either for an hour or a day or a week. And I think it is important to share that, because anyone that's listening might be like, I want a group of friends like that. Why don't I have friends? Like if I had friends, everything would be okay. And it's not like that. It's like, I encourage you listeners too, that if you don't have your group of friends, what the common thread was here is I put myself out. And any of these ladies could have been like, girl, you're crazy. Like, why are you approaching me at some random table or conference or talking to me in line? And it didn't take that I was an extrovert. It took a lot of courage. And so now we can be here in 2020 to support each other and, cry on Voxer if we need to cry, or vent on Voxer if we need to vent, to get us through this on the other side. So thank you so much for sharing, Jaclyn. And Hilary, what are you closing 2020 out grateful for?
I think that every closed door is the possibility of a million new open ones. And my husband and I lost, to be succinct, my husband's business lost $1 million of income, right? My business did all right. But as a result, he's now looking at, well, am I gonna keep doing what I'm doing with these people with whom he hasn't really been happy? And he and his business partner, who is his best friend, are looking at now starting something completely new. And he's completely invigorated and excited and inspired about doing it. And we lost a bunch of money, but it's almost like it's given birth to new possibility. So it's kind of a new adventure. And, I share this on my podcast, but like we keep our expenses low enough that we can afford we lost a bunch of income, but I'm grateful for our personal financial management that we are not going under. We can pay the mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, I don't know, it just looks like as we turn the corner into 2021 and there's news of a vaccine, it's like, we can only go up from here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
I am too. I realized I needed to find moments of what I was grateful for, like in a lot of moments, like over and over throughout the day, just to like keep my sanity and keep things going. And I freaking loved it. I love the habit of just sitting there and being so grateful I get to have lunch with my son. Like it doesn't have to be a thing I put on my calendar and they said, it's lunch with your family at school. No, it was like every day in my kitchen. And my husband was home for 6 months not working. And so he was home. We were having breakfast, lunch, and dinners together, and so much family time. And for me, I hadn't even imagined what that would look like. Like my son's 10, I couldn't even imagine what would that look like if he wasn't in school and my husband wasn't working and I was working in this little office at the front of the house and I could get in and out and be with him anytime I wanted. And so that's what I focused on when things did feel hard and a little bit overwhelming. And so I am so grateful. I'm grateful for each and every one of you, as you know, and that's why I invited you here. Thank you so much for spending your Friday afternoon happy hour with me doing a Friendsgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. And I love y'all.
Thank you, Amber. Love you too.
Thank you.
Love you,
Amber.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. And I sure hope that just listening in on my conversations with some of my friends was entertaining, maybe even a bit insightful and encouraging. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. I know firsthand how really isolating being a business owner can be. I know that because I felt that way. For many years, I felt like I was in this gray space of having friends that were not business owners that I loved and can connect with on a personal level. But I felt like I was missing friends that could get me on a business level, that could encourage me, become the people that I invest in and they invest in me. And what it took was making a very purposeful decision to show up at conferences uncomfortable and take the initiative to try and make new friends. I always joke when my son was a toddler, I was blown away at how easy it was to make friends. We would go to indoor playgrounds, outdoor playgrounds, or at school. It just seemed so easy. And when my son was young and I observed that over and over again, I thought, what is the difference as an adult? Why does it feel so hard? And the difference is, by this time, we have stories and insecurities, and we think the other person doesn't want to be our friend, and we literally get in our head and stop ourselves from really just meeting people and seeing if there's a connection. Now, maybe that's my experience and my story, but I thought it may be of value to share that because I had all those stories, but I did it anyways. So I'm going to invite you to make a decision, to take action, to build your community of people that you can get support from. Now, I know how important support and community is, and that's actually why I created Leverage Lab. Leverage Lab is my group coaching, training, and accountability experience. If you would like to learn more about how these business owners are supporting each other in addition to getting support from me, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/leverage lab. And before we close out, just a reminder, if you have not already decided to join us inside our Vision Board Happy Hour, you can do so, or you can learn more and get the details over at amberdelagarza.com/vision. I hope to see you soon. And I need to tell you one more thing. I created this Vision Board Happy Hour because I actually want to see your faces. You see, right now, I am sitting in my office all by myself talking to a mic. I want to meet you, the listeners of Productivity Straight Talk. I want to be able to serve you in a different way outside of behind the mic. So if you're on the fence, just come check us out. And I would love to meet you. So head on over to amberdelagarza.com/vision. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.